Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments. Thanks for joining us today, whether you are live, listen to the podcast, or viewing us on YouTube. We're glad you're with us, and thanks for spending part of your precious ATM. Attention time, no money required. I want to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors, Lightheart Sanders, the CPA firm. They have been, I'd call it a legacy sponsor for several years now. So thanks to them and the great work that they're doing, and not the least of which is their help and participation in pulling off a very complicated project, the P&L study. So thanks to Lightheart Sanders. Also Qnity. Qnity also is a great partner and a sponsor of Lightbulb Moments. And they do have an upcoming conference in September, Energize, which we're super excited about because Candice Gliato and myself will be speaking there. And it's definitely a killer event if you want to go to a tech conference, which I think we all should do. The theme for today's episode is a great complement to last week's theme. Last week's theme was called Find the Time. And it featured a true expert in that subject who walks the talk, and that is Cheryl Madrone, who is the owner of Gervais Salons in Eugene, Oregon, 3 locations. She also happens to lend a piece of her time to us as a Qnity coach. It was a great episode, and it really reminded us that, hey, we all are looking for outcomes, for example, profitability, but let's not forget about what a lot of us also are looking for, and that would be peace of mind and making sure you take the time to fill your bucket and do all that. It was a great, great episode, so definitely want to check that out. Today's episode is about finding the money. So last week's Find the Time, this week's Find the Money. And find the money is a term that has some meaning to me professionally, because that's really how I started out my work in the beauty industry, being a former CPA, also someone that worked in distribution and had a lot of experience working with salons one-on-one. I offered a service called Find the Money. And over the last 30 years, I've done countless Find the Money consults of different degrees. And it's a very intentional look to see what are the biggest opportunities in an individual's business based upon looking at their P&L, data benchmarks, whatever. And Find the Money has been a theme that has really permeated a lot of the work by Qnity throughout the years. Now, I feel like I was describing a little bit earlier today that I feel like I went through a little bit of a personal metamorphosis over recent months. I was really zoomed in for several months, really completing a major project, the P&L study, which the level of complexity, moving parts, potential controversy, et cetera, was very consuming, and I turned my sort of deep dive zoom in analyst hat on. And now fast forward since the formal release of the report on my birthday, June 19th, by the way, we've rapidly moved into going beyond the data and insights into taking action and creating tangible results that will help a business become more profitable. And as part of this sort of metamorphosis and thus emerging into, okay, we have this huge gift and this huge collaboration that allows a very data-driven look at profitability and what really moves the needle, where are the biggest opportunities, but then how to make that meaningful. We knew that we needed to provide more guidance to help salons go beyond the data and into actionable plans. And so meanwhile, along the time, and now I'm getting to an introduction of our guest today, Rebecca Ezolt. Rebecca, why don't you join us? We'll bring you forward and I'll allow you to say hello, then I'll do a more formal introduction.
Hey, Tom. Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
So we were already starting to work with Rebecca, who has just an amazing background, which I'll get to in a moment, really working with her for her to become a coach in training. And we accelerated this, and I reached out to Rebecca. I don't know, how many was it, 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago? I said, yeah, let's keep that going, but let's fast track you as a profit advisor. And here you are today, officially a Qnity, quote, profit advisor and coach in training. And so available to help bring this more to life so we can reach more accounts. So we're super thrilled to be working with you, and thanks for being my guest today.
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Let's get the bio behind, because you are a humble person, and let me do the bragging. It's not just bragging, it's just a factual background. So the best way to describe Rebecca is a seasoned business and a strategist with over 20 years helping companies grow through smart, intentional operations. Since entering the beauty industry in 2017, she has worked within a large multi-location salon and medical spa by the name of Lords and Ladies, where she was a key part of the team that led the organization's transformation from a single family-owned model into a franchise model. During this time, Rebecca mentored franchisees through the critical shift from hairdressers to business owners, guiding them to lead financially sound, high-performing locations with strong company culture and values. With over 500 hours of hands-on experience analyzing profit and loss statements and coaching based upon these findings, Rebecca is able to utilize the P&L as a diagnostic tool that reveals blind spots and streamline the path to meaningful results-driven solutions. Rebecca blends sharp financial insight with a heart for service, helping salon companies find their financial and operational footing with clarity, strategy, and purpose. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, where do we really jump in on this? Because we've had so many conversations, like several times a week, really honing in on the pain points, how we help salons become more profitable. And there you are every single month. How many, 7 locations. And franchise, when you think of franchise, a lot of times you think of like value price salons. No, these were premium salons. It was a very complicated project that you pulled off. Now, I was a small part of this for about a year and a half, made several trips back and forth to Philadelphia. You're based outside of Philadelphia. And I got to witness firsthand how you really addressed profitability with these premium salons under new environments. So anyway, I've done a lot of talking. Jump in. So
Yeah, you bring up that year and a half, Tom, and I just think to myself, P&Ls, we laughed, we cried, everything in between. It was so much fun and such an educational experience for me. Yeah, I mean, my time at Lords and Ladies was so incredible in terms of just having the opportunity to be there during the transition into franchising. The salons were each sold to one of the most successful hairdressers within that location. So the idea, during some succession planning and kind of thinking about what the next chapters were for the company, and not wanting to just sell to someone from outside, really also giving the opportunity to our hardest working, the people who really adopted the systems and lived them and breathed them. How do we give them the opportunity to now own their salon? And with that comes a huge responsibility in transitioning somebody who's used to being behind the chair to now being responsible for, a company that's doing, $1 million to $2 million a year, plus the med spa. It was just a tremendous opportunity to really be up close and personal and to help them make that transition.
well, it was a great chapter, and I have nothing but the most complimentary things to say about Lords and Ladies, the owner, the leadership team, etc. And we're pleased to be part of your next chapter. You lean in on analogies with health when it comes to salon profitability. I think it's a great analogy. Let's talk through that next, okay?
Sure. Yeah, so I know a lot within this community, we kind of think visually, And I think my brain almost thinks in these different analogies in a way. And so as we've been going through really the intentionality of how do we take this profit study, which now again can be a great diagnostic tool to really uncover some things that maybe we didn't know about, or maintain a level of excellence that we might not even be realizing that we're excellent in that category. How do we look at the way we want to take care of ourselves physically, whether that's fixing, what's going wrong, or going for those wellness checks to make sure we maintain our health. It's the exact same thing within our businesses, right? So we all get to make choices in terms of how in depth we want to go with that. But the goal is to have healthy salon companies, and using this profitability study as a tool that can generate activities that are finding the pain points and actually prescribing methods to resolve them is huge. So you could have your doctor with all of the tools and instruments and equipment. If you don't know how to use those tools, if you don't know how to apply the proper medication to the proper issue, you spin your wheels and you wonder why you're not making any progress. Where this profitability study, it uncovers, it tells you where you should be. It gives you your ideal metrics. And now, how do we get you there? And again, if you're there, how do we make sure we maintain that? Because we all know one stylist leaving, or one bad storm season, or we're one health issue away from being in real trouble. And so I think this P&L study, along with the work that we're doing, these services and these products that we're getting ready to launch, can really give you your best shot to maintaining or remedying so that you can run a healthy business.
Yeah, so well said, and such a great analogy. Part of the challenge that we both have experienced, Rebecca, is in many places you can't even get to the diagnostic, or you can't really be as intentional about profitability, due in great part to failure of having the three must-haves. The three must-haves is, in order to help someone with profitability, the numbers got to be right. The worst thing is to, give people advice and find out later they based it on wrong, inaccurate result. Number two, timely. You were able to help provide guidance if we get the numbers sooner rather than later. And many businesses have to wait a very long time before they get numbers. And the third one is since there's no industry standardization of formatting, making sure the numbers are formatted in a way that you can actually benchmark and make data decisions. So I know in your particular case, you've experienced that with trying to get to the point where you've got the must-haves. Do you want to speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, I think the must-haves, it just is a matter of discipline. When we're talking about financial health, when we're talking about having a P&L or bookkeeping properly, it takes no skill for that. To be a great hairdresser, it requires there's something in you, right? There's a skill set, there's something that you can be taught, but there's also a part of it that's just innate. And with what we're talking about, there is no skill required. It's just about having the discipline to do the things that you need to do, again, so that you can run a healthy business. And why does that matter? Is because as the owner, if you have employees, it's not just about you and your style and your preferences. And you now have people relying on you. You have clients relying on you. So this is some of the stuff where it's like, I get that you might not be bent toward it, or this might be the area that you really are not too interested in. But at some point, the reality is you don't have a choice. And I think what Qnity is trying to do is come alongside those owners who say, this is really not the area that I want to be investing my time in. There's so many other ways that I feel like I can impact and lead and grow and inspire my business. So what we're saying is we'll hold your hand through that because it's essential.
There are skills, and it's probably one of the easiest skills to outsource. You do need the skills of an internal and external team. Shout out to Lightheart Sanders as being one of those companies that really help people get the must-haves there and be able to get the numbers at a point where someone like you and I can help. And then as well as the internal team. And, I think that what was super cool about the work that you did with Sam and Michelle and, that great team is, you implemented a very important discipline and practice and created a streak around that. That's part of what we teach as a means to profitability. You want to go through that for a bit?
Yeah, so within our small finance department, and when I say finance department, it was, kind of two other ladies who were pretty much the backbone of behind the scenes. They were doing so much. But one of the things that we really dedicated to, and this is where I'm kind of more talking about this, you still have to have the infrastructures in place and you have to have the people who can do the things. But really from the owner's perspective, it's just about the discipline of doing the thing, which is for us, it was meeting every single Wednesday. I think we had over a 3-year streak. It was like over 200 meetings that we never missed. Even when one of us would be on vacation or two of us, we would still have a 10-minute phone call. And it's really just about keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the business with the finances. And it can be, basic things of just, where are we with sales? Where are we with our expenses right now? Were there any hiccups? Is there anything coming around the corner? Those 5-week months are absolute killers. So it's like never being blindsided to when those curves were coming around the bend. And we kind of just, it was rocky in the beginning. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't super professional. We were just trying to figure it out. And we learned the business so intimately and so innately that we eventually got to the point where we didn't have to really look things up. We just knew by looking at the sales figures, or we just knew by looking at how many days were in that month, that where we were going to be great, where we were going to be tight, where we needed to move things around. So the disciplines are what I'm talking about that don't require skills. It's the submitting the expenses in a timely fashion, having the advisors in your corner that can do the bookkeeping for you so that you can be looking at a monthly P&L. It's the whoever it is within your team, if you're, an owner and it's maybe even just your husband or your wife, or having somebody who's going to hold you accountable for knowing what is happening financially in your business. That is a discipline that, again, it can be rocky, it can be ugly at first, it can be whatever it needs to be, just it's got to be done.
There's always that messy period, and but the creating of closure and eliminating past practices, getting current and all that, it's usually a one-time process. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. You go through the messy period, then you don't look back. So back to the streak of consecutive weeks where you had that discipline to carve out time in your busy week to focus on finance. It's also a practice that we highlight from Candace Gliato, who's another profit advisor, and she actually teaches our profit program and has incredible results. And her streak, I think her streak for weekly meetings goes back, we should find out from that, but it was I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 years, like incredible streak. And for me, being involved in running a multi-location business, for me, it was Thursday noon, every Thursday noon, like clockwork. It caused me to sort of like shut everything off and just have that time, and having those incremental changes each week is huge. So shout out to you in those business practices. And I did want to highlight that one. So,
and the other thing I do want to just add while we're on this topic is that a lot of the things that we're talking about today, and when it comes to profitability or these weekly meetings, is that it's not glamorous. It's not the silver bullet. It's not the big product launch with a party and a big promotion, and you can see the results in that way. A lot of that 7 or 8 years that Candace spent, or that I spent in my, 3 years doing them, there are a lot of times where you're wondering, like, is this really, like, nothing's coming out of this? The thing you have to remember is that you have no clue the chaos that you have avoided potentially by doing those meetings. So it's not necessarily the fireworks that we're wanting to see. It's the lack of chaos. It's the order. It's the clarity. And it's not super instant gratification, but you just have to know that you're bringing in order and you're bringing a level of security and peace to your business that I think most of us are really lacking, especially in this industry where there's so many emotions and some people actually thrive on the chaos. We as leaders have a responsibility to bring peace and order to our businesses, not more chaos.
Yeah, the highlight of this session is find the money. And part of it's also finding the peace. And the peace of mind comes from awareness and understanding. So many times people come to me, Rebecca, and it's like there's so much angst just because they don't know what they don't know. They're not current. They don't understand their P&L. Maybe they had some bad, guidance, whatever. It's just that peace of mind that comes. And I love what you just said about you have no idea the amount of chaos that you just prevented with this weekly ritual. All right. So the idea with another topic we've spoken about, and it's so interesting because I was on this text exchange earlier today, has to do with tangible results, like before and after. It's one thing to talk about a streak, before it was chaos, before I didn't have the mustache, before I didn't weed, meet every week, and now I do the following. But the other thing is like tangible results, profit before and after. And we're part of it. And we don't always solicit that information from our clients, or because everything what we do is confidential, we don't really talk about as much. But sometimes people really want to know before and after. As a result of doing this, my profit went from X to Y, or so-and-so cost went from X to Y, whatever. So you have a passion for tangible results too, and how these activities translate into quantifiable results. Comments about that?
I mean, I think it all ties together. You were doing find the time last week. We're talking about find the peace. We're talking, all of these things that we do on a daily basis. We don't have time already. And then we're doing these things that we've always done, and we're not actually sure that that thing is helping our business at all. And a lot of it ends up, being more intuition based and feelings based. And with those tangible results, with a tangible goal, knowing where you're starting today and where you're trying to get in 1, 3, 6 months, a year, and being able to measure that, one of the Qnity principles is cut what's not essential. Well, how do you know what's not essential if you have no idea where you started and where you're trying to get? So I think that the tangible results are certainly essential when we're talking about profit, because we're trying to deliver something that's going to improve your bottom line. So clearly you need to know where that started and where you're trying to get. And it creeps into every aspect of your business. It creeps into every function, and it starts to make clear what you can cut and what's essential to keep doing and maybe even go deeper on.
We've been in communication with different people in the industry, different clients, whatever. And I had a very interesting meeting with a salon owner, single location. We actually had coffee together, and I've known her a long time. We had a very candid conversation. She had some very serious issues, family related, and really, truly was in a find the time mode, very, very stressful situation, family related. And we talked about profitability in the P&L study, and several people say they really just don't care about profitability. And then also, which is something that she said, I really don't care about profitability. I feel like I got it under control, but she really doesn't. And then the other thing is, she said, well, people won't share their P&Ls. She said, I won't share my P&L. And I was taken back by that a little bit. And this person didn't participate in the P&L study. And so what would you say to her?
I would ask her, do you care about your employees? Do you care about your clients? And I can guarantee that 100% of the people who will say, I really don't care about profitability, because we've gotten to a place where it's like, if it's about the money, it's almost like a dirty thing. And we want to be about heart, and we want to be about compassion and caring, and we want to spend all of our time investing in our employees. But again, like I said before, if we don't have a financially healthy business, we've got nothing. It's the same thing with our kids. My kids would be a lot happier with me if I let them eat candy morning, noon, and night. I don't do it because it's a lot easier for me too to just say, like, yeah, just take the piece of candy. I'm their bestie. We have a great day. It all goes smoothly. But I'm hurting them. And caring about your profitability is the exact same thing. You don't need to like it, but it's an essential part in the health. So you're stewarding your business, you're stewarding your employees. And even when it's hard, even when it's not what you're drawn to, there's a responsibility there. So, and what I've learned, and I think what I add to this, even though I've been put into that bucket is she only cares about the numbers. It's like, I care about the numbers because I care about you. And I care about forcing my kid to eat broccoli because I care about him. And that's what this is about. And so it takes a level of maturity and ownership of that responsibility to care about your numbers. You don't have to spend 45 weeks on your numbers, but know your numbers. And again, let us help you. That's why we're providing the service, because you care about this industry, because you care about seeing healthy salons. Tom, is why we've invested so much time to say we've got the tools. Now let us help you use the tools so that you can run a healthy, thriving business and get your time and get your peace and have your finances in order.
Well put. Very, very well put. Thank you. Complete random segue having nothing to do with this conversation, but I just had this food sensation. You talked about broccoli and candy, and completely irrelevant to anybody out there, but bear with me. So last night I heard this very slow, this was probably about 7:30 last night, and I heard coming up our street this very slow but coming closer and closer, like jingle, and looked out the street, and here comes this ice cream truck, all right, coming down our street. So how many of you remember Good Humor? Is Good Humor still around?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So a Good Humor man was on our street last night, and I said to my wife, the Good Humor man's on the street. When was the last time someone drove down our street with ice cream? So anyway, that was a great joy last night, completely irrelevant to this conversation, but I just had to share that with you all. I love ice cream. So Rebecca, you clearly have a passion for the industry, and you have a passion for people, and there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. And in this journey in helping businesses find the money, what else really inspires you about why that's important to you and where you think you add value?
Well, my season at Lords and Ladies, as I touched on before, was just so rich and unique. And we went down a path, with really taking finances seriously in order to free us up to do more of the things that our employees wanted, that our clients wanted. And when my season there was done, and I've taken, my life has kind of just gone in a different path. And that was all, because of heart change on my end. But after a couple of months of thinking to myself, I do have something unique to offer this industry. And so if I can be of service to share some of that and my wonderful relationship with you, it kind of has segued very naturally to just, again, I was in a unique position. I learned so much. And so if I can share that, then that's what I would love to do. And will continue to do as long as I can be useful.
Awesome. Well, we're thrilled to have you in your service. And there's another, we'll wrap up pretty soon here, but I'm going to throw another topic in that doesn't necessarily relate to find the money, but it also is something that you and I have been talking about, and that is putting a spotlight on certain people in a salon company. And a lot of times the spotlight's on an owner. A lot of salon owners have big personalities. They're out there in the industry, whatever. And you hear a lot about a lot of the salon owners, but it's really the people behind the scenes that in many cases are the engine behind the business. And often that is the number two, call it a GM, a director of operations. It could even be a CEO title that reports to an owner, but that manager, whether it's single location or multi-location, but especially multi-location, really putting a spotlight. So what we're going to be doing, we've talked about this a little bit. I think I seeded this last week too with Shara from Gervais's number two, Joanna, is the importance of that position. And what you're helping us do is helping us put a spotlight on those people. We're going to be doing some surveys. We've invited some people to profile. And that's also a passion project of yours too, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I was that number two for 7 years with Lords and Ladies, and I loved being in that position. I think a lot of our GMs and people in those positions, um, they do tend to be very humble. They really are okay with the spotlight not being on them. But the thing is, they have so much rich knowledge and experience to share. So I think that these GM spotlights are going to be amazing for kind of two key factors. Number one is, yeah, you deserve to get a pat on the back once in a while. Let's just accept that, learn how to graciously take the pat on the back. I'm learning how to do that more and more each day that I'm, back with you, Tom, as you're, reading these bios and things like that. It is sometimes hard to take the praise, but it's healthy and it's good. So let's really give those GMs, those number twos, let them have the spotlight for a moment, give them the pat on the back, let them graciously accept the kudos. But even more so, they've got so much to share because they're on the front lines and it's valuable and it can help others. And if Qnity is anything, I think what it does is we connect people so that we don't all have to go through the pain points, or so that my benefit can also be for your benefit, and that's a beautiful thing. So I think that these spotlights are really going to do that. They're not only going to kind of give people the pat on the back they deserve, but there's really a good opportunity here to share some really nitty gritty behind the scenes, maybe some tough love here and there, maybe some look in the mirror moments and be able to reflect on something that maybe you've been doing right or wrong. So I'm very excited to dive in and learn from these guys.
Yeah, I can't always see who's participating, but I am going to give a shout out to one person who I think's on this call, and that's Kelly Campbell from the Eco Salons. Very successful, 4 locations. I hope you'll gush for a moment, Kelly. I was talking to Trent about you, and so vitally important. So shout out to Kelly Campbell, because she will be one of those people invited. I'm not sure who else is on this forum here today, but I did know Kelly was on. So yes, a little love for Kelly. Let's wrap up. But one of the things that, going back to the genesis of Qnity, is in creating Qnity, I really came in from a perspective as being a salon owner. And that was really the most important chapter for me, I think, in terms of creating Qnity and all the successes and failures I had as an owner, And what I'm really proud of is, and we don't talk about this very much, is that Qnity really is built by salon owners for salon owners. And a lot of our team are salon owners, but that's not the full story. Qnity is built by salon owners and managers for salon owners and managers, And I think Michelle has a rich history as a salon manager herself. By manager, I'm even lumping into that, for example, of GM, whatever. But I just think it's really important to have that experience, to live it emotionally and say, well, it's not important for that background. I think it's vitally important to help a small business owner. If you were a small business owner, or if you were a significant leader in a small business. So anyway, you help us make that more of a reality. Let's everybody give Rebecca a virtual round of applause. Have you gotten a $1 million light bulb before?
A long time ago.
Long
time ago.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you got another one coming. Put this proudly on display over on your shelf there. Tell us a little about your personal life. You got a couple of great fun boys that love to play in the woods and all that. Just a little bit about Rebecca here.
Yeah, so I'm located here in Pennsylvania. We're about an hour and a half northeast of Philadelphia. We live a little bit out in the woods, so we've got a little bit of a homestead situation going on. We raise sheep and rabbits and chickens and all that good stuff. My kids have had poison ivy somewhere on their body since mid-May because they're always outside playing. Their names are Weston and Carson. They're 8 and 7 right now, and we're starting homeschooling in the fall. My husband is a self-employed HVAC contractor, so he's always on the run, and we're just blessed. We're blessed. Gardening is my passion, so flowers, vegetables, doing all that stuff. So yeah, we're just homebodies.
All right, Rebecca. Well, we've been overdue to get you on as a guest. It's been way too long. We're thrilled to have your input. What great wisdom today. Thanks. Not only thrilled to have your input, but we're thrilled to be working with you more closely, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And I'm sure that those that listened today enjoyed this episode. So thanks to all of you for joining us today. Whether you are with us live or listen to the podcast, send us some comments. Let us know what you think about this, and we'll see you on the next go around. Bye all. Thanks again.